What number are we thinking of?
69, dudes!
Hello and welcome to episode 86 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode, it's absolutely huge. The guest is someone that I've dreamed of having on this podcast, and it feels even weird saying it out loud, but it did happen, it is true. Alex Winter is my guest on the Mark and Me podcast, and the interview is coming up very, very soon, and I can't wait for you all to check it out. But in true typical Mark and Me fashion, you know the score by now. I like to touch base and talk about the last episode. So on episode 85, I was joined by Jeremy Gardner and Christian Steller. Amazing filmmakers, amazing directors and great actors. And we got to talk all about one of my favourite films, The Battery, and their most recent release, After Midnight. And the great thing was seeing everyone jumping on board and checking out this interview. Some people were very honest and said they hadn't heard of these films, but with the brand new Arrow release that's out there, they went out, they invested, they've checked out the film and they loved it. So to read all these tweets and emails and Facebook comments that have now discovered these films because of the podcast is a huge honour. So thank you to everyone that took the time to listen, and it really does mean a lot. And I've shared the feedback with both Jeremy and Christian, and they've been absolutely thrilled too. But let's talk about today's episode. This is huge. Alex Winter, for me, an amazing actor, an unbelievable person, and they sometimes say don't meet your heroes, but when I met him, he was everything I could ask for and even better. He was very generous with his time, and I was lucky enough to sit down face to face and do this interview. I think I first discovered Alex in The Lost Boys, which I think is one of the best films out there, easily one of my favourite vampire and horror films, and we all know Bill and Ted. It doesn't need any more kind of introduction than that. One of the best films out there. I love the sequel, and I can't believe as we sit here right now, we've just had the trailer for the third film after all these years, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. But let's kind of get straight to it now. I've teased you enough, and I think it's time to listen to me and Alex. This is face to face at the For Love of Horror Comic Con back in Manchester in October, and I can't wait for you to listen. So here it is.
All we are is dust in the wind, dude.
Dust? Wind.
Dude.
I'm in Manchester here
Yep.
For the Love of Horror.
Yeah,
And I'm with the one and only Alex Winter. How's it going, my friend?
it's going well. We did this crazy Lost Boys reunion, and a lot of us haven't seen each other since we shot the movie.
I was there today in the queue with my friend. He bought a ticket to get a photo of you all, and I was watching when you first met up today, and the hugs and the embracing, and I thought, I don't think these guys have seen each other since the 80s.
Yeah, some of us,
amazing.
yeah. I mean, I've seen Kiefer and Jason, but we haven't all been together ever.
No.
Since we shot the movie, and some of us hadn't seen each other. I hadn't seen Chance Corbett since he was a little kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was sweet.
Did you expect such a big response? Obviously, it's a cult film that everyone loves, but the response today when I'm walking around is absolutely insane.
Yeah, people have been incredibly enthusiastic. I mean, I'm aware that the film, has had this longevity, which we're very grateful for, and you never expect that with a movie that you make. You really don't. It sounds like kind of BS modesty, but you don't know what a film's going to do, whether it's going to be successful at all, much less be remembered in a year or two from after you've made it. So, yeah, it's been really sweet. I do know that we have a big fan base, and I know that in the UK that there's a lot of enthusiasm for it.
For the listeners out there that are not aware of your early work and stuff, tell me about when you were growing up. What was it that made you want to be an actor?
I was a child actor. So,
So you knew early on. Was it your parents' influence, or did you want to?
It was a mixture. I mean, my parents weren't really enthusiastic about me going into like professional acting, but I was very interested in it, and They were in the arts. I was born in London, and we moved to the States when I was fairly young. My parents were dancers.
Oh, okay.
And my mother taught dance at a university in the Midwest, and so I was always on stage in whatever performance they were doing. And then I ended up starting acting professionally when I was around 9. By 12, 13, I was on Broadway, and I was on Broadway all through my teens in 2 long-running shows back to back for years, and then I ended up doing the movies and stuff. But my sort of greatest interest was always writing and directing. So I went to film school for college, and then ended up acting in Bill and Ted and Lost Boys actually after film school.
Wow. So you originally wanted to be a director?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been directing since the 80s.
Yeah. So what was it you were watching as a kid that made you want to get into film? Were there certain movies you remember that you loved?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you kind of ingest everything when you're little, but because my mother worked at university and I was there all the time, I was always going to watch big movies at the university. So I got the things that really sparked me when I was young were like Chaplin, a lot of silent movies, Chaplin, Keaton, and then early Hitchcock, sort of British Hitchcock era.
Those foundations are the best. You can get a better blueprint than Hitchcock and Chaplin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was super young, and I was just really sparked by that.
Yeah.
And then the theater department at it was Washington University in St. Louis. It was a very good theater department, so I was doing Shakespeare plays. I was doing pretty interesting theater and watching pretty interesting films, as well as ingesting just all the crap that's on TV. So I was very, I had a desire to make movies and write stories when I was pretty young.
So you mentioned your parents. My parents, when I wanted to get into film and stuff, it's kind of a fear for a parent because they want you to go and get the business degree or they want to get the economics and get a proper job. But were your parents supportive, or did you find that it was quite a battle?
No, they were supportive. I went to NYU Film School, which is a very good film school, and I got an enormous amount out of that experience. And they knew that I was headed for the arts when I was super young.
Yeah.
And they also knew that I had a strong work ethic. And I was working professionally, and I paid my way through college by doing the Broadway work. So I think they saw that I was gonna, take care of myself. I think it's when you have kids, because I have kids. That's sort of what whatever they're gonna do is are they interested / capable of actually taking care of themselves?
Yeah.
I think my parents saw I was pretty independent, so they weren't overly concerned. But yeah, it certainly wasn't the world they came from. They came from a very different end of the arts as well.
Yeah. So then you talked about how you got this role in Lost Boys and obviously the big role of Bill and Ted. Was that the point when you thought acting is going to take the priority over directing at this point?
No, it was the opposite. After Bill and Ted, I literally fired my acting agents and quit acting.
Wow.
Yeah. So, no, what happened was I was super grateful to get those roles, and they were really fun. And I like doing physical work, whether it's comedy or drama. I like very physical acting. But by the time I was doing Bill and Ted, even... my directing career was already beginning to happen. I was directing commercials and music videos at a big company in LA, and I was directing clean through both Bill and Ted movies. So by the time the Bill and Ted movies were done, and Freaked was actually, which I did after Bill and Ted 2, which is the last big acting job I did. But I did that with my directing partner, and we had our own TV show on MTV by then that we were writing and directing, and our career was going very well. So I just told it was friendly with my agents, but I was just like, I don't really want to. I don't want to do the acting piece anymore.
Yeah,
I'm just going to focus on writing and directing for a while. I mean, I knew I would come back to acting. I've been training the whole time. I've worked with really good acting trainers over the last 20 years, and it helps my writing. But at that period of my life, I'd been acting so long. I've been acting since I was 9.
Yeah, you had
I just needed a break.
Yeah.
I just needed to stop being in front of the camera and have a bit of normalcy. And so it was healthy. It was a good thing to do.
I mean, directing music videos, that's how a lot of filmmakers start. I'm always, people like Edgar Wright, you saw they're still doing it now because they've got a love for it. Do you still enjoy that? Do you watch? Because I think it's a shame now that when you watch any sort of MTV or anything, no one makes a music video like I always remember stuff like Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana and Soundgarden, and now there's not that artistic, decent video anymore. It lacks.
Well, the problem is that the market, the platform for videos died.
There's no money anymore in the
there was no MTV.
No.
It doesn't exist, so it doesn't exist doing videos. So really certain big rap acts or big pop acts will do them and put them out on YouTube as just pure promotion. But this notion of an industry built around music videos doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I was happy that I got to experience the heyday. I made videos from about 86 to 96.
Which is the prime.
And it was really great. And I was doing it at Propaganda in LA and then Propaganda in the UK. And then we formed our own company here in London. And I was doing them here out of my own company for a while. And it was really great. It was very creatively liberating. I learned a lot. I worked with incredible talent in terms of production designers and DPs. And it's kind of where I cut my teeth.
Yeah.
So I miss it on some level, on another level I don't. It's the type of work I do directing-wise is so different from that. It's not really... I mean, with Edgar Wright, the style of his filmmaking is very prone. Yeah. And the stuff he does in the music video space, currently is really great. And very emblematic of what he does in the narrative space. Yeah. But I don't really do that kind of thing.
What's some of the film directors that you're really fond of now in the modern day? Obviously, you've had some great foundations, but who's the people you really respect in the industry that if they bring out a film, you're there on day one?
There's a lot. I mean, there's an enormous amount of people I feel that way about. I do a lot of documentaries. People like Laura Poitras are amazing. I've gotten to work with her. She's produced a couple things that I've done. The Coen brothers, I'm always interested in what they're doing. David Lynch, I'm always interested in. Then there are filmmakers who are, perhaps less known. Lucretia Martel, some of the sort of more artier end of the spectrum. I'm always, interested to see what they're doing. So, there's great filmmaking going on right now, and the industry has changed enormously because of streaming and because the bottom kind of dropped out of adult, movies for grown-ups, basically.
I love the fact as well now that if you're a filmmaker, you can make a decent film in your bedroom. One of the films that stays with me is Monsters, and it's just made on a very low budget. He did it all himself on After Effects and stuff like this, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is incredible. If you want to be a filmmaker, you can do it on an iPhone.
Yeah, I talked to films. That's what Sean Baker literally did. He did an incredible job with Tangerine. Yeah. I love the Florida project too, but Tangerine's really, really groundbreaking. I talk to film schools. I go back to NYU a lot, and the kids will ask me, what are we going to do? It seems so daunting. And it is daunting, but the means of production are at your fingertips now. And when I came out of NYU, making films like we did, my directing partner and I, it was so expensive. Buying film, processing film. Could you afford a fade? Could you afford to dissolve?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was unbelievably. It was all analog and super expensive, and it was prohibitive. It really was much more classicist. It really, if you couldn't afford all of that kit, you couldn't do it. And it's still classicist to a degree in the sense that you do need probably a phone and a laptop or access to some form of editing, but that's that's much less expensive than what it was costing us to get cameras and lights and process film and all of that.
I mean, you've been there, you've been doing stage work, you've done acting, you've been in some huge films, you've done directing. What have you got left that you want to do there? Is there anything else that you're thinking?
I just like telling stories, so I'm really happy with where things are right now. I have a production company in LA and we make mostly documentaries, and I'm really happy making my docs. I write, the stories I tend to write tend to be similar to the docs. I tend to be in the either nonfiction space or narrative dramas based on true events, which tends to be the thing I like. But I've wanted to return to some form of acting on kind of my terms for a little while. So Bill and Ted 3 has given me an opportunity to do that, and it was very satisfying because it was exactly the kind of acting I like to do. It was very physical. It was character based. I'm playing multiple versions of myself, and so I'm old, I'm young, I'm many different sort of iterations. So it was a fun way to kind of flex those muscles again. So I would do a little bit more of that. I may even do some theater acting again in theater at some point down the road.
I mean, if the listeners out there would probably murder me if I didn't talk about Bill and Ted. So the announcement for you guys broke the internet. It was insane. There was always this talk for years and years. You know, you get pictures of Keanu Reeves, he might be doing it, and it was always about...
Yeah.
And then you officially went out there and went, we're here, we're doing it. And
yeah.
I'll be honest, I was like, no fucking way! Like, finally!
Yeah.
What was it like going back? Was it like you'd never been away?
Yeah, it kind of was. Keanu and I see a lot of each other, so that made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
There's a familial aspect to doing it with him. He's like a brother, basically. The two writers were all very close. The producer, very close. A lot of the same crew came back. Even makeup effects people were the same.
That's amazing.
So it was a very communal, easy, familial environment to work in.
Yeah.
We developed the story from the ground up, going back a dozen years.
That's amazing.
Keanu, myself, Chris Matheson, and Ed Solomon all put that together and worked very hard to get it off the ground. So it was satisfying to see it actually get done. We put a lot of work into finding these guys at this age. We weren't cavalier about it. It was a lot of prep that went in, a lot of acting training that went in. But the essence of the characters are still there.
That's good.
So I think for both of us that felt pretty natural.
Because sometimes they've left these films too long, so like Anchorman and stuff, because there's such a long gap, sort of 10, 15 years. For me it's too long, and I sit there and I'm like, it doesn't feel like it has the same spark.
Yeah.
Even Breaking Bad recently, the film came out, and it's only been 5 years or 4 years, but it feels like these characters aren't the same. So to try and recreate those dudes from 80s and 90s must be really tough.
Well, you know what? And I don't know how the film will do, so it doesn't speak to the marketability or the commerciality of it. But I can tell you from a performative standpoint and a conceptual standpoint, I actually always felt like the longer we waited, the better.
Yeah.
Because the comic conceit of this movie is the fact that we're middle-aged.
Yeah.
It is the fact that we're not two
dudes anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're dads, we're husbands, we're in the real world.
Cool.
So the conceit is, how do these guys function in the regular world, and what has the regular world done to them? So if the movie works, I think it will work because of that gap, and and if it doesn't, maybe people won't find it funny enough. But we were laughing, so we'll see. Hopefully, other people will laugh.
So I would have dreamt to have been on set with those people, because it must have been absolutely phenomenal with these people just sitting there and having the best time. Mm-hmm. My last question for you today is, for the people out there that are trying to get into the film industry, you've been there, you've done that, you've done all of the sort of work. What advice do you give to these people?
I mean, I think that a lot has changed because of the technology is mostly additive.
Yeah.
It mostly makes it easier. So there are two kind of core things that you have to keep in mind, I think. One is the level of work ethic. A lot of people talk about how lucky you have to be in the business. I don't. I really think it's about persistence and working hard. If you're willing to just continually work hard, you will probably make your way into the business on some level and sustain something in the business. But the other thing, it all comes down to story, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter the technology, it doesn't matter what tools you've got. You have to learn how to tell stories, and tell stories that have resonance with other human beings. And if you can do that, then you can do that on your iPhone.
Yeah.
And you can do that on your iPhone, and you can clutter bust. You can actually do something that makes a dent. And what does make a dent is a good story.
Yeah.
So I think it's really being willing to work hard. It is that's what usually knocks people out of the business, is usually the realization fairly early on that it's drudgery, man. And I mean that in a positive way, because I love doing it, but it's hard.
Yeah. People think there's a line of hard work, but they don't realise how much it actually takes to get over that line. And I think some people's conception of hard work is, I might have to work a few extra hours. No, you have to give everything to it for it to even take off.
Yeah, and it's relentless. I mean, Reeves and I were sitting on the set of Bill and Ted, and we both work hard, and we both been in business a long time. We looked at each other at one point, because we'd worked very hard to get the film made. We're like, this is hard.
Yeah.
Like our bodies were tired, our brains were tired, like we were tired. it was hard, to get that right. And day after day after day, we rehearsed every weekend. We didn't stop. And
we're getting older as well. I don't mind
that's
my arms
for sure.
ache, my legs ache, my back hurts. I'm like, oh
completely.
my god.
Well, there's that as well. But there's a relentlessness to sort of choosing a life in this industry. For sure. And that a lot of people just say it's not worth it at a certain point. And if you stay in it, usually is because that's what you want to do badly enough.
I really appreciate your time today, and I can't wait for next year because it's going to blow up and everyone is going to be talking about you. And Bill and Ted, I just know it, man. It's going to have that magic. It's going to be fucking awesome, and I can't wait.
Thank you. Thanks, I appreciate it.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Alex Winter. What an amazing guest. What a great interview, and such a great guy, and so generous with his time. It was a non-stop weekend for him at the Comic-Con. He was signing, doing photos, being part of the huge Lost Boys reunion. And honestly, to give me that time means the absolute world. And a massive, huge thank you to the For Love of Horror for allowing me to the Comic-Con and having that time. And a massive shout out to Amy for giving me this interview and this opportunity. It means so much, and I'm forever in debt with you now, and I'll be buying you drinks for life. But genuinely, thank you so much. I hope you've all enjoyed the interview today, and I can't wait, and I'm sure you're sitting here the same as me after watching the trailer for Bill and Ted 3 to check it out. It looks an amazing film, and to see him and Keanu Reeves back on screen after all these years, and you know what, they've aged really well. It looks great, it looks funny, and it looks like it has the magic that we got from the first couple of films. So honestly, it's probably my most anticipated film of the year. And who knows, I might have more interviews in the pipeline with this film coming out, but I won't say anything and ruin any surprises just yet. Again, if you've not checked out For the Love of Horror, it's a great Comic-Con. This is where I conducted the interview. They've got an event again this year. They've got some amazing guests lined up for Jaws already. Last year was Lost Boys, and I'm excited. So check them out, get some tickets, go along. It's the best con I've been to in the UK, and it's really well organised with great people, and you'll love it. I want to dedicate this episode today to a few friends because it's such a big episode for me. So my good friend and huge Lost Boys fan, Martin Street, I know he'll be listening to this right now and absolutely loving it. He came with me to do this interview and he's such a good friend, so this one's for you. And I can't not dedicate this to some of the biggest Bill and Ted fans in the world out there. Matt, Emma and Harley, this one's for you. Stay excellent, be excellent, and just carry on being awesome. I'll speak to you all again in a few days' time with a brand new episode. Thanks for listening and take care.
Heavy metal.